Thank you for joining me for another episode of Awaken Empowered TV. I'm your host, Ethan Fox. Today I have a special episode that's a 2-hour event that we did here recently with Micheila Sheldan, giving a lecture, a little bit of background about herself, and about an hour and 15 minutes worth of really amazing channeled information that's spanning quite a broad range of topics. So something you definitely want to catch. Now Micheila will be speaking at the Awaken Empowered Expo coming up this November 4th, 5th, and 6th. In Detroit, Michigan, along with a lot of other incredible presenters, including James Gilliland, who will be speaking about extraterrestrials and also doing a workshop as well. Adam Apollo, who's going to be bringing us up to date about a lot of the amazing innovations happening in the world that are a sign of us moving to a higher dimensional consciousness. We also have Barbara Lamb, who's going to be speaking about ET human hybrids. Some other amazing presentations. I'll also be giving a talk helping light workers to bridge the gap between a third dimensional world and a fourth dimensional world, and how to succeed in that world in moving toward a field of light work to express your gifts in the world. So some amazing things, a lot of other talks. You can go to awakenempoweredexpo.com to learn more about the different talks and presenters we have planned. So in the meantime, without any further delay, here's Micheila Sheldan.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. And I think we'll have some people trickle in. We always do. So welcome. And I'm just wondering how many people here have never been to one of my classes or sessions? A lot of you. Okay. All right. Well, that's always good, helpful for me to know, because part of what I like to do is share a little bit about my journey to channeling and how I got to where I am today. And I feel it's really important because I truly believe that everyone here is a channel for spirit guidance. And we all have our very unique ways of tuning into that. And when you find that, it's a really beautiful relationship with the universe. So I like to share my story because I feel like we all have that opportunity in our life to be able to connect in that way. But first, I want to introduce, tell you a little bit about myself and the organization. So Flower of Life Center is the organization that supports these classes. And if you're not familiar, we are a volunteer organization that is all about furthering human consciousness in all areas. And that includes alternative health, science, spirituality, energy, consciousness, technology, and that manifests in a variety of different ways for us. We have our Awaken Empowered Expo, which is a very large event that we put on here in the Detroit area. Anyone here attended the expo before? You attended last March? Okay, and you did as well? Yeah, so we've got another one this coming November 8th, about 4th through the 6th. Sorry, I have so many dates in my head. November 4th through the 6th at the DoubleTree Suites. And if you're here in town, you really don't want to miss this event, because we fly in people from all over the country that are really pioneers and experts in all these various areas. We'll have James Gilliland here this year, who is going to bring in the ET consciousness and a lot of information about extraterrestrials. He does an incredible workshop, and I can't say enough about it. It is an experience not to miss. Anyone who was there that experienced last year, he brings in the ET consciousness right into the room, and people were just crying. You can just feel the shifts in the room, and it's an incredible experience. We have Adam Apollo, who's he's an expert in all different types of technologies and what's going on the planet that he's going to talk about. We have Dr. Eric Pearl, if anyone's familiar with him, reconnective healing. He's going to be talking about that. A variety of different healers, teachers. Dr. Robert Schock, talking about ancient archaeology. He's done a lot of research on the Great Sphinx, sharing all of that with us. Who am I missing? I'm blanking out. We have Kevin Ryan, who's an incredible healer, energy healer. Who am I missing? Dixon. Dixon's violin is opening up Friday night, and he's going to play an amazing. Do you know Dixon?
I've heard of him.
We had him here 2 expos ago, and he plays the electric violin, and it's an incredible healing experience in itself. I was really blown away by the energy he puts out off of this violin. It's like you're floating in that room. It's just a beautiful experience. So he'll open up Friday night. We have Barbara Lamb, who is one of my incredible favorites. She is a hypnotherapist who has done a lot of research on crop circles, as well as a variety of different types of, experiences she's had in hypnotherapy with different types of extraterrestrials, like hybrids, and she's authored several books, so she's got some groundbreaking information that is really fun. I'll be there channeling. Ethan will be there. So many other people. So you don't want to miss it. Check it out. We also have a conscious action group that works on various solutions for problems that we have in the world. And, we have so many things that we want to get rid of, GMO food and fluoride in our water and chemtrails and all these things. And a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people complaining about it. But what we like to do is find people that are actually working on solutions and promote those solutions so that people understand that not only it's an issue we have to address, but how we can address it. We have a conscious youth movement for kids 9 to 18, very near and dear to my heart. It started here locally, and now we've got the team expanding that out to the globe, really. We have kids all over participating. Remote calls, where the kids get on like a remote call together. We bring in all types of topics. We've talked about channeling, we've talked about energy healing, mediumship, a variety of different things. So if you'd like to join us, we have many spots for you. Whatever talents you have, whatever time you have, feel free to join. It is a really transformational group. And when I was called to this group back in 2012, I think, it literally changed my life, because it not only gave me an outlet for expressing all these things in the world that I really wanted to change, but also I found my purpose, which, I became beautifully awakened to what I'm here to do on the planet. And I've had the distinct pleasure of watching many other team members have the same experience, where they've joined the team and it's really brought that out of them, that special, unique thing out of them, that they've gone in these various areas and started doing their own groundbreaking work. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. And Ethan Fox, who is the founder and visionary of the group. And I'm Micheila, for those of you who don't know me. And we're talking about channeling today, so I like to make this really interactive. Do I have any channels, mediums in the room? Kind of. Yeah, everyone's looking, it's like, yeah, you guys all are. You guys all are. Anyone who knows it, right? That's what I should say. Good to know. So feel free to share, because I love to make this interactive. If you have questions, we can go off on tangents and talk about what you guys want to talk about. And just, raise your hand and let me know. I'd love to hear what you're experiencing as well. So I don't really claim to be an expert in any of this. I haven't studied in some London castle, nor have I taken, a variety of different mediumship and channeling courses. I fell into this very much by mistake, which was actually on purpose, right? There are no mistakes in our life. I was a mainstream mom living in a very mainstream world and loved my life. I went to college, got a bachelor's degree in marketing and PR, and had a very successful career for a good number of years. Worked my way up the ladder, was managing 5 different offices in the Midwest, traveling, doing my thing. And then I got married and had my first daughter, and it broke my heart to leave her at daycare. So I decided to leave all of that world behind, and just one day went in and gave my notice and decided to stay home. And I am the firstborn A-type personality. I do everything to a T. And so took all of that, business energy and put it into motherhood. So, hi, come on in. I was the volunteer of everything. I ran the local PTA. I ran the Girl Scout troop. I ran the whole region for the Girl Scout organization. I ran the social club for the neighborhood. I ran the church social group. You name it, I was in charge. And I was very busy, and I loved my life. Well, as we know, oftentimes our spiritual awakenings come with a very difficult challenge that we're going through, as did for me. I had my second daughter and started to experience some chronic pain. And I really didn't have any explanation for this pain, was going to doctors and, doing that thing that we all do. We get our insurance card and get on that hamster wheel with all the tests and the prescriptions and everything. And I had been prescribed PT and medications, but really had no diagnosis whatsoever. And was getting worse. Every year would get that new insurance card with renewed hope and think, okay, this is my year. I'm going to get better. I had pain in my hip. I had pain in my back. I had pain that went down my entire leg. I finally ended up with numbness in both of my legs. And this pain had gotten so bad, I started to have my nerves ablated, my nerves severed every 6 months. I was afraid to drive my own children. I was pulling off the road with numbness in my feet to the point where I thought I was going to get into a car accident. And I lived in this really beautiful neighborhood that was supporting me. You know, here I was, large and in charge of all this stuff, and everyone knew my name, and they all knew of my condition. So they would phone me and say, hey, you having a bad day today? Let me get the kids off the bus for you. Or, hey, if you need some groceries, give me your list. I'm going to the grocery store. I'll pick up whatever you need. So I really didn't have any reason to get better. Here I was, in this space where everything was taken care of. And I really loved it. But my family ended up having to make a move. It was a move I was not in favor of. So it was a relocation. And I really dug my feet in. I did not want to make this move because I didn't want to leave this beautiful neighborhood and all these friends and the support and this whole volunteer world I was in. But I ended up relinquishing that and went ahead and moved to the other side of town and ended up in a neighborhood that was not at all like where I was before. As a matter of fact, I couldn't make any of that work to save my life. I tried to volunteer for the PTA. They hated me. I had a Girl Scout troop. It was a complete and total disaster. Couldn't make a friend to save my life. And as all of this is happening to me, my stress levels are, rising. My pain levels are rising. I'm on antidepressants, anti-inflammatories, anti-pain medications. I'm washing it down with alcohol starting at, 5 o'clock every night as I'm cooking dinner. And then that 5 o'clock became 4:30, And here I was, 40 years old, in chronic pain. And I think my defining moment, I've never really talked about this in any of my lectures before, but my defining moment was I was in a pain management clinic. And when I had these nerves severed, there was a side effect to that. And the side effect was muscle spasms. And I had such intense muscle spasms that I would go to this pain management clinic and they would put all these electrodes on me, right? And, give me the electrostim. And I was laying there with this electrostim and I looked around me at what looked like, 90-year-old people who were kind of on their way out. And I thought, I don't belong here. It was just a defining moment in my life where I had to look at myself in the mirror and go, something has got to change, So what I believe is that the universe picks us up and drops us off exactly where we need to be in order to experience something in our lives. And had I stayed in that situation where I was in this beautiful, cushy neighborhood with everyone supporting me, I never, ever would have made a change in my life. And here I was, forced at this point to try something different. Well, synchronistically enough, this new neighborhood I moved into, I was exposed to Eastern philosophy, which was something I had never, ever experienced before. I grew up Catholic Italian, strict family. Nobody talked about energy healing or meditation or, I went to Sunday school on the bus right from church, right from school. And meditation came into my awareness in this new neighborhood. So I started to Google that and I thought, okay, meditation could help me disconnect from my pain. It could actually help me control my pain levels. And I thought that was worth a shot, I should say. So I started to meditate very regularly. When I say regularly, religiously, like that A-type personality that I am, made a schedule. And morning, afternoon, and night, I was meditating. And it wasn't at all for any spiritual purpose. I really didn't care about any of that, nor did I have any awareness of it. But what started to happen was really interesting because I started to notice in my meditations some things changing. Most certainly my pain levels were affected. I just noticed my stress was decreasing. I was able to deal with more. I was really able to deal with my pain easier. But in addition to that, I was starting to hear things. And I noticed in my meditations that I would start to hear voices, things, and I thought, maybe my mind is really busy. This isn't the way meditation is supposed to be. You're supposed to quiet the mind. I'm really making this stuff up. But what really caught my attention as I was walking about my day between my meditations, just casually in the grocery store, maybe I would run into you and we'd be talking about the weather. And I would hear something in that conversation that was not at all about the weather. As a matter of fact, it would be very personal, maybe about you. And I would walk back to my car and drive home, scratching my head thinking, did she really say that to me out loud? Because I really wasn't sure. I would get home and I'd question, wow, did she say that to me? Because I didn't respond to her. And I don't even know her that well for her to have said that to me. And I started to think I was really rude and a bad listener, but came to find out I'm actually a very excellent listener. And all of this culminated for me in one event, which I love to share, which happened Christmas 2010. It was my awakening to spirit. I was having a dinner party at my house, and I am the oldest of 3 children. So with all that A-type personality, I make gourmet dinners and have everyone over, which I did. And I had a very special recipe. I was making a beef tenderloin that day. And I got up that morning excited about the day, ready to make this meal, went to the pantry, opened the door to pull out the ingredients, and realized I had forgotten to purchase 3 very key ingredients for this tenderloin. There was a red wine, a beef stock, and a spice that I needed for this recipe. So I thought, surely I can mock this thing up. I got out a stool and I started pushing stuff around, looking for something similar. And I came up with nothing. So you all know it's Christmas morning, right? There's no grocery stores that are open. And I've got, 15, 20 people coming to the house. So I'm getting a little stressed. And stress was my cue at that time because stress equaled pain, pain equaled meditation. And that was my practice. So I told the kids, Mom needs a couple minutes, went in the bedroom, closed the door, went into a very deep meditation that day and heard 3 words that forever changed my life. It was a deep male voice, as if in the room with me. So loud it actually shook me out of the meditation. And those 3 words were, I am Jacob. And I wasn't afraid. I was curious. I kind of had this really beautiful, peaceful, buzzy energy around me. And I thought, wow, I don't know who this is, but I tried to communicate back. I didn't get any response that day. But I kind of didn't care. All the stress was gone. All the pain was gone. I felt great. I was like, man, I don't know what that was, but that was cool. It's Christmas morning. I can salt and pepper this thing. What was I so stressed about? So I walked out of the bedroom, went back to the pantry, opened the door, and there on the shelf in a very neat row, right at eye level in 3 sealed containers, were the ingredients that I needed for the recipe. The red wine, the beef stock, and the spice. And I was overjoyed. At that point, I had started delving into law of attraction, and I thought, wow, I had manifested something into my physical reality, or this Jacob really heard me that day and provided what I needed. I didn't tell a darn soul and made this recipe, went about my day. Just remember being a very beautiful Christmas day with my family. And for a while after that took place, I put that out of my head. I just kind of pretended it didn't happen, went about my life, continued my meditations, and didn't tell anyone about it. But what it did for me was it piqued my curiosity because it was so literal to me. It was so real that I thought, I really need to understand better what's going on. What is it that I'm hearing? Who are these people that are talking to me? What am I getting from these other people? And at that point, I just became extremely intentional in my practice. And I started asking a lot of questions. I went into my meditation with those questions. Who are you? Why are you here? Why are you talking to me? And I started to get a lot of answers. Not ones that I was ready to accept or believe. I was told very early on I was here to be a channel in the world. I was here to bring messages through me. And I was like, that sounds great, but, the PTA is not going to be cool with that, nor is my family. And I didn't even want to use the word channel. For me, I was very comfortable with clairaudient. I started like, I'm clairaudient. I hear. But what happened was the messages really got bigger than me. And my meditations got deeper, and I started going into deeper trance. And those 3 words became 12, and then became 4 sentences, then became a paragraph. And I started journaling at that time, and it was coming through, and I just couldn't remember all of that content I was getting. So I started to voice record myself with my iPhone, and that really blew my mind when I heard my voice, because when I would listen back, I'd hear my voice change. When I first started channeling, I was working with a lot of angelic guides, archangels, and my voice would get high if it was an angelic presence, like a female guide coming in, or I worked with Mary a lot when I first started channeling. If there was a male guide present, my voice would get very low and deep. I would talk in ways that I didn't talk. I would talk about things that I didn't really know about. And I started channeling extraterrestrials before I really even believed in them myself. Right? I mean, that was my journey to understanding the universe, because, I was like, I don't know this ET thing, But boy, when they started connecting with me, I was like, this stuff is real. But again, I still wasn't going to take that to the local bake sale, right? It took a long time for me to start working with this in a way that was comfortable for me, because I did it in my closet. I did it in my closet for a really long time. But I ended up attracting, the support around me, Ethan, a tribe of people that really supported my journey. And I think that's what happens when we awaken to our truth, is the universe supports the truth of who we are. And then we begin to magnetically attract all the things we need in order to walk that path. And it still wasn't easy, right? But when I started to listen back to my messages, I started to think, who am I not to put this out into the world, right? Who am I to say that I'm not this person that the guides are telling me? And the more I accepted it, the more I became me, the more comfortable I was, and the more beautiful my life became, And I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful that I found this in me, and that I'm able to do this work. And now today I do this for a living, I call it for a living, but it's not really a job. It's my purpose. I'm here in this life with purpose. And I work with individual clients. I express this in channeled classes. Today I film this channeling that we'll be doing in a little bit, and it goes out to everyone on the planet so they can tune in and listen to it. And I love what I do. So Jacob, who is Jacob? Jacob was what I call a gatekeeper, a very special guide who I believe we all have. And he was here to help me to find this gift again. He was a past life connection for me. He was a young boy in a past life, and he was lost, and I took him in. I clothed him, I fed him, I cared for him. So he came back in this life indebted to me in this way to serve me and help me to find these gifts. And I thought he'd always be here, But surprisingly enough, he came in one day and said his work with me was done. And he said that he had served his purpose. And by that time, I had already brought in some other collectives and guides that I was working with. One of the collectives I was working with at that time is called Jeremiah. And there are many beings that step forward from this collective. The prophet Jeremiah is the main guide that works with me. And, of course, I asked him, like, why would the prophet Jeremiah speak through me? And I was told that his journey as an incarnate being on this planet was very similar to what light workers would be going through in this time. And I didn't know anything about him, so I looked him up. And sure enough, he was given a message from God at a very young age. He was meant to take that message out to the world and share it. It's a very difficult journey for him, because it was a message that not a lot of people believed. And it was truth. It came, what he was meant to share came true. So he comes in support of what I do on the planet, and gave me a lot of information about my path, my journey, my mission here. In addition to that, I channel a variety of different beings and collectives. I worked with Mary Magdalene very early on and still do in many of my private sessions. I work with the Pleiadians. I work with the Arcturians. I channel a Council of Light, which is a 12th dimensional collective of beings that are here to support an energy grid that is universal. I work with a collective called The Ancients, although I feel them stepping out a little bit. They're a collective of Mayan ancients that have been here giving me a lot of information about the Earth transition that we've been walking. And we're kind of getting through that phase now, and we're moving into a new time. And so recently brought in the Atlanteans that I'm really excited to work with. I really just keep myself open and allow myself to go where I'm led, and I'm always told what's coming next. And the Atlanteans are just such loving beings. And they're here to support our physical transition on the planet, because we're making a really big one in the next couple of years. So I download a lot of information about changes on the planet that we're going through, creation. I'm channeling a book right now that goes back to the beginnings of time and how we were created and how we were taken offline in many respects. There's a lot of information in there about the reptilians and their Earth experience and how it affects our reality, how we are creators. But it's across the board. A lot of the information that I bring in, it's always changing with what's happening here on the planet. And I was told very early on by Jacob that I was here to support light workers through a very difficult time on the planet. And I had no idea what that was. Again, I was like, well, that sounds great, but what does that mean? I don't know how to do that. But now I get it. It's taken me 5 years, well, we're 6, we're in the 6th now, to get into this place where I finally understand what that time is about. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, any questions about channeling, experiences you're having, things you want to share, how to connect? Yes.
Could you say you open yourself up to how do you connect?
That's a great question, because when I first started doing this, I had no clue what was going on. And I'm very open. My energy field is very open. So I was connecting with souls that had passed, like a medium. And I do that too, still today in session. But I feel we have such incredible power to choose the communication that we want. And it's a vibrational match. Right? So when we are intentional in our connection, we have to also consider where are we at in our vibration in the moment, because that's going to match the beings that come in. So when I open myself up, what's happening is, I'm raising my vibration through my intention, and really through my consciousness. That's a continual process. And the guides are kind of matching me in the middle and coming in to support. But some of the experiences I had early on, I could feel in my body, or I could tell by the messages that these were not beings of the highest intent, let's say, right? And I was very solid and firm in no. I just blocked myself and said, I don't wish to talk to you. And that was enough. That was, and I think that because I didn't have any, like I said, I'm not a book smart channel. I hadn't gone to a bunch of classes. I really didn't have a lot of fear around this. And I did actually take a channeling class after I was really solidly channeling. I thought I got to learn what I'm doing, right? And I kind of learned some fear in that class. I don't want to bash the channeling class. I actually, the good thing that came out of that class was I learned how open I was and how I was so stuck in the archangel world. I could just accept so much in. But there was a lot of talk in that class about protection and, lighting the white candles and, certain crystals. And, if that's something you do, that's great. But what I believe is when we put things outside of ourselves for protection, we're not honoring the truth and the power of who we are. And I didn't know any of that. And I just said no. And it's always worked. And I don't think it's a problem for me anymore, just because of the vibrations that I'm connecting with more and more and more, right? It's just, I don't match those vibrations where those other beings are. So I think you have to walk both sides of it. If you're experiencing something like that you feel is not right, you really have to say a solid no, and you have to not accept that information and just block it. But then at the same time, you really have to be cognizant of your vibration. Like something I didn't mention when I moved into this new house, I knew nothing about GMO food. And I learned about GMO food in that house. And I went through my pantry with wildfire and threw out everything that was in there that was conventional and went all organic. I had a very fancy reverse osmosis filter in the basement that was filtering the fluoride out of my water. And I had no idea what it was for. It's like, wow, this thing makes the water taste really good. But, here it was, drinking now water that didn't have fluoride in it, in my pineal gland, completely opening, right? We have to consider the physical and the non-physical of everything that we do. And I think it started for me at that level, eliminating those foods, drinking clean water, just being more aware and more conscious of what I was interacting with. When we're in session, sometimes the guys will even say music, the music you listen to affects your vibration, the words in that music affect her. And I never, I used to listen to all this rap music when I was working out. Now I go to the gym and I put on my old playlist and I go, oh, I don't want to listen to that. That's going to bring my vibration down, right? So everything that you do in your physical world has an effect on your vibration and what you match. But I think you get to a place beyond that. And I do truly believe that as non-physical beings, when we raise our consciousness to a certain level, these physical things really don't affect our vibration all that much anymore. I think that we can get to a place where, not like it's safe, we should go out and just, eat anything we want and drink chemicals in our water, right? But I think that we do get to the point where we don't have to worry so much about all that little stuff, and we just vibrate differently, and we exist in a different dimension where we are more open and we are connecting just with those beings that are for our highest good, right? And I think that's where we're headed as a collective too. So, yeah. Do you have a question? Oh, I thought I saw a hand go up. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can I just make a
Yeah.
comment? I'm also psychic medium in general.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of things. In my experience, if you have good guides that are gatekeepers, they help
Protect you.
So you don't have to use anything. As I went to classes and it's all about, and it's so fear-based. I never had that.
Right.
And I did the same thing. I didn't go to classes until after I was already doing it, and I wasn't afraid.
And you learn fear.
That were bringing in what I needed.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Yeah.
If you're here to do this work, they know that. They support you on the other side, and they don't let you get into negative situations unless it's for one purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, the gatekeepers, and then Indian guides too, right? Yeah. We all have Indian guides that step in and work on that level as well. Yeah, and I was very aware of that early on. Mm-hmm. That Jacob, as a gatekeeper, almost would show me that he was pulling in the right guides, and sometimes I still see that. It's like when I work with somebody, I'll see the Gabriel will come in and just pull in the people that we need to work with, the beings, right, that we need to work with. So yeah, you're right. That support is really huge. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Welcome. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the planet. I'm not watching the time, Ethan. Are we? Okay. Okay, so we'll do a live channel in about 10 minutes, and for those of you who haven't experienced my live channeling before, what I do is I intend to bring in a guide collective that's best suited for the group that's assembled here as well as beyond, because this is recorded today. And they will bring in a general message for us that is most important for everyone to hear, and then there's time for questions. And I have paper and pens that we'll pass around, so you can write your questions down, and Ethan will read those just to get them on the recording so we can hear them. And, any topic is open. I just ask that you try to make it more universally based, instead of like, Aunt Jane's got cancer here, what can we do about this? How do we help people that have cancer, right? Would be a more appropriate question. And Ethan might rephrase that just so everyone takes a benefit from that. So, wow, big times we're in, right? A lot going on. A lot of changes and a lot of shifts. The lunar eclipse, was it yesterday? Yeah, huge. I had been getting a lot of information about that actually several months ago, and I had forgotten about it till the lunar eclipse showed up, and I was like, oh, it all lines up. So the guides have been talking a lot lately about this new collective grid that's been installed in the Earth. It's a crystalline grid, and it's kind of, I want to make it equal to our DNA. You know, when we think about our strands of DNA, it's informational, right? It's crystalline, energetic. That's what this grid is as well. So I'd been getting some information that this new grid was installed about 2 months back. And when I say it was installed, this is an energetic installation. It's not physical, right? And this is something that we had a lot of beings supporting us with, but it also had to do with our intention because we raised our consciousness here in such a way that we placed an intention on this grid being installed. And this grid is actually helping us to move into a more collective space, which was always the way we were designed, right? We were designed structurally as a one collective. But what happened here over time was we have been disassembled from that. Our structures have been focused in very singular aspects of our physical reality, especially in the third dimension and especially in our material existence. And so what this new collective grid is doing is it's bringing parts of our structure back together in order to function and operate more as a one. And so this sometimes sounds a little scary to people because there's a lot of things changing with this. You know, the way we manifest, number one, you know, which people think, well, I want to manifest stuff for me. I want to have a singular experience. You know, I want to have this relationship, the car, the house, you know, all these things. And we can still have that, right? This is not about losing our singular experience. We're all still going to have this beautiful, unique, singular experience. But this collective energy grid, what it's doing is it's allowing us to manifest now differently because we're working at the level of our purpose and our intention. And I truly believe we all came with one, right? This is our imprint. This is what we came to leave here on this imprint on the collective. And it's unique to all of us. And we have the creative ability and the free will to choose to make this however we so want it. It's vibrational, it's in our record, right? But now we're being called to operate at that level. And when we operate at that level, we manifest all of the things around us, like I was talking about earlier, to support that. So I want to kind of get back to my story a little bit and about the chronic pain, because I did heal 100% my chronic pain issue. And I wouldn't say that that was because of one thing or another, right? And I didn't know how to channel information on that. It never occurred to me like, okay, tell me what to do. But because I was operating in this new dimension and I had raised my consciousness, I was magnetizing all the things I needed on my path that opened up for me so beautifully. There is no way in hell I could ever have designed that more perfectly. You know, I came across exactly the right practitioner who sent me to exactly the right book, who sent me to exactly the right next thing. And I turned around about a year and a half, 2 years later, off all my medications, 100% pain-free, no numbness, no pain, you know, and I'm actually in the best health I've ever been in my life. You know, I started eating more raw. I started, you know, like eating more organic. These are not things that I said I better do, I have to do. They were just things that made sense to me. You know, my world began to change. And that's what's possible here in this new space, right? Because what we're here to do is to serve the collective, but it serves us as well, right? And this is, I have so many beautiful healers and teachers that are my clients. And I'm so grateful that I get to connect with all these people all over the world. And the one thing I've learned is we are going in exactly the right direction. So many people out there doing incredible, beautiful things. But they get really caught up in this whole collective space. You know, it's like, I have to serve, I have to serve, I have to serve, I have to work. This is hard, you know, like I'm not doing what I'm here to do. And they start to panic. Well, you know, we're here to have this beautiful experience, and that beautiful experience serves, right? So if it's feeling hard and you're putting it into the mind, it's not connected to your imprint. If you're stressing out about it and it's not working out for you, it's time to take a breath. Because where we're at right now in our structure is we're integrating the higher self. Our higher self is the seer of all of our timelines. We are multidimensional beings. Time is really an illusion. Linear time is something we were given to organize our thoughts, our reality, our past, present, future, but really we are omnipresent and we go on and on and on. Our souls are not only here in this room, we are expressing ourselves in other dimensions. We're expressing ourselves in other timelines in this very moment. And so when you think about that, you can understand how your record, it has this incredible ability to continue on and take the things that you are given here and the expressions that you made here and use them all over the place, right? But this higher self is giving us the opportunity now to start to operate at that level. And that's our purpose. That's our truth. And some of us have awakened to that and we're beginning to know it, but we're still holding on in resistance to all the stuff that's falling away, right? When you raise your vibration, things are going to change because we're magnetic beings. We're informational magnetic beings. And so when we're tapping into new information at a higher dimension, that old stuff not going to work anymore. That relationship that maybe is tied to the third dimension, it's going to come to a head, right? So what I see most is in this space we're in, walking this really fine tightrope of having to manage that, the stuff that's falling away and not holding on in attachment to it, and opening yourself up to the bigger plan, which is your imprint here. And then you manifest in alignment with that. Everything comes in to support that. The relationships have to support it, right? It's not just about having a relationship just to have a relationship, right? Those people have to honor your truth. They have to support, they come in to mirror your truth in many ways. In the work that we've done as healers, some of that has to change. A lot of healers are having these epiphanies that they can't do things the way they were doing them anymore because we're moving into a more collective space. And in that collective space, everything shifts and changes. So this is the incredible space that we're in. In addition to that, I've been getting a little bit of information starting to trickle in about the physical body. And this is going to be a very big part of the transition we're walking the next 2 years. The reason for this is that our bodies are informational and we're reorganizing and tapping into higher dimensional information. And people who aren't aware of how to use this new structure we're going to have a little bit more trouble in the physical body, right? More disease, more disharmony, more discomfort. And that's why healers are operating differently to serve that. We all respond to what the human consciousness needs. And that's the one common thing that I hear in all of my sessions, that your divine record is tied to the record of the human consciousness. So we can't get stuck in how we think things need to be. We have to open to how things are going to change and transition based on where, as light workers, we need to be and where we need to use our gifts differently and how those gifts are going to start working and operating through us to support the universe. And this is the space that we're in. And I believe it's a really beautiful time. It's not an easy time to maneuver, but it's definitely a time to heal. Karma in particular is the way that we heal karma and release karma is moving into a more collective space. So operating at that soul level, it takes on new meaning. Everything that we do, every free will choice that we make has an impact on what we see in the collective. When we have contamination, when we have wars, when we have things like that going on, it's a part of us. We have to start taking responsibility for that at the soul level. So it's really pulling this lunar, I'll go back to the lunar eclipse, what the guides have been saying is, we've really been operating at this singular soul level for healing, and this lunar eclipse came to take that all away. It really came to just pull that karma away from our singular experience and open our vision up to karma now that's going to be coming through the collective and how we're here to serve that. So that's a big deal. But I also think it's a really incredible opportunity because this is where the healing starts. Right? This is where the rebirth starts. So we see these technologies really coming in to clean this stuff up. And, we're going to manifest all of that. It's not physical. When we see things like Fukushima, people get really caught up, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to clean this up? It's huge. Oil spills, whatever it may be. We don't need to know. it's coming from here. We need to clean this up. We need to operate here. And then the technologies show up because we're vibrating in a way that it has to. We bring in the dimension where that stuff can't exist anymore. So it has to be cleaned up. This is the brink of what we're on right now, which is super, super exciting. So I'm very positive about our future here. And I do get a lot of emails and questions from people on Facebook about, is it really happening? Can we really turn this around? All I see is bad. But I truly believe that the good is here. It's already here. And the more that we connect to that stuff, the more we expand it. So is it time? Okay, sorry. Talking. All right, so I did forget to mention that we do take donations. We offer all of these classes for free. If you are able to leave a donation, what we use that for is to pay for the facility today. And then any overage goes into our programs, like our youth program and things that we're working on in the world. So we'll pass a basket. And if you can donate, great. If you can't, no worries. And then we'll also pass around cards and pens so that you can write questions down if you have them. I don't know if we'll get to all of them today. I hope that we will. But if not, hopefully you'll come back to another live session and we'll get your question in then. So I often work with a variety of different guides and collectives. I'm not sure who will come in today, although I've been told I think it'll be the Arcturians. And Thoth, if anyone knows Thoth, he's a god, an Egyptian god, was coming in earlier for me today. So we might be speaking with him too. I'm not sure.
What is the name of the Egyptian god?
Thoth.
Oh, okay, my daughter-in-law's Egyptian.
Is she? Yeah, look him up. I had to look him up. Okay. Sometimes I have to look these people up. They're like Thoth. I'm like, all right, let me look this up. Let me Google this. Yeah, interesting guy.
Thoth, right?
Thoth.
I have some literature.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'll come in, but I was connecting with him earlier today. So we also sometimes get activations and processes during these channeling sessions. So just understand that everything that comes through is vibrational, and regardless of the words, even if you don't understand them or you feel like you didn't understand a lot of what comes through, you got a vibrational change today. It's coming into your structure and it's going to come up somewhere in your life, okay? So just be open to what the vibrations are. We are the council. We are the Council of Light, and we are pleased to begin. As we are operating through this transmission, we ask that you all understand there are many that are in support in this time of the Earth consciousness, and we are ones that come together in the 12th dimensional energy, holding the space for your healing as well as for the healing of all other beings and planetary energies throughout the universe. In other words, you are all connected and you are all one. There is a web of consciousness that exists in the universal fabric, and that web of consciousness connects not only the earth beings, but also many others, so that every part of your ascension timeline here, every part of your transition is in some way tied to others. And those beings are not only receiving of information from you and understanding how they must come in and support, but they are accepting of the expansion that you also offer and using that expansion in their own experience to transition through their own ascension timelines and grow their own consciousness. What we wish to bring in today is additional information for you about the timeline that you are walking in relationship to not only this new collective grid, but especially your vibration here as a one consciousness, and how it is beginning to bring you into a new space. And that space has been alluded to in many past conversations as two separate dimensions. Knowing that you as a human consciousness will be moving into two separate dimensions that are existing here upon the earth plane. Many of you have already experienced the third dimension being a more dense energy and a material existence. And we see that there are many that are still operating in this space on the planetary being, having the dense energy and the material connection that is keeping them grounded here in ways that they are not able to reassimilate into a one connection or one consciousness that is being forged through this new collective grid. The fifth dimensional energies have always been present here on your planet as well. And many of you are beginning to bridge from the fourth dimensional energies into the fifth. What that means is there is a vibrational energy that is now coming into balance. And we wish to speak about this for a moment so that you understand some of the changes in the Earth consciousness, because the Earth as a mother being holds not only these beautiful connections to you, but also to multidimensional information. She is a portal in essence, and her energies begin to tell the story of how your energies here will adapt. In other words, your structure is formed in the likeness of her own, and your DNA is present within her. Your structure in terms of your crystalline energy comes from her and is magnetized by her. We often speak of the heart chakra, and through the heart chakra there is a resonance as well. And that resonance is something that holds many together and creates a one energy, which is your collective reality. Many wonder about this collective reality. How is it that we are all experiencing the same reality, but creating as separate beings? And this intersection of timelines, we will call it, is something that is also beginning to change. Because when you are seeing the same thing, experiencing the same reality as separate beings, what you are doing is tapping into a similar timeline that is being created by you. And many would hear this and think, well, there are things on the planet that are happening that are not to my likeness, that are not things that I would have created, that I would not wish to experience here. But you see, there is a commonality to all of you through the heart chakra that vibrates as a one. And that one vibration is what is responsible for the intersection of these timelines. In other words, there is grid energy that is supported through Mother Earth, and that grid energy becomes the catalyst for how you interconnect. And this grid energy has been magnetized in expansion through this new collective grid that we have spoken of. In other words, the grid lines of Mother Earth are becoming more magnetized, and they are holding more information. So the result of this is that your power as a one creator here has now been exemplified. In other words, this collective reality that you all experience together, it has also been somewhat fragmented. There have been experiences that some of you have had that have been quite different than others. There have been creations that have been not serving of the human consciousness and creations that have. There's been fluctuations in the consciousness of the human beings here, and that fluctuation has caused many shifts and changes. But you're always operating in a base energy, and that base energy is your divine record and the divine record of Mother Earth. In other words, you're always working in the energy of history. That history goes beyond your history books. That history goes beyond what you've experienced in your physical classrooms. That history is cosmic. That history is multidimensional. That history spans beyond the creation of your Mother Earth planet. It starts in many dimensions beyond this form of existence in your physical reality. And you have been creating using that information. You see, history as a vibrational form of information is within you. And when you match it in a common vibration, it manifests into form. So let us give you an example of how this works. You're all vibrating at various speeds. Some of you are higher vibrational levels of consciousness, and some of you are lower vibrational levels of consciousness. But you are interconnected, and through the heart chakra, you match this vibration in every moment. And there becomes a common place or a point where there is a measurement of that vibration. We call that space the field of potential, and how you equal that field of potential. And within that field of potential, there are many timelines of information that are historic that you can choose from, that you can match, that you can replicate in your energy. Perhaps it was a war. Perhaps there was a dimensional war that took place here on this planet, and there were dimensional beings that were responsible for that war that were not human. And now, through your frequency and through this match of a timeline, there has been a weight of consciousness that matched this history. This is why you experience wars within your physical reality. It is not something new. It is something that you've created here by a match of vibration. And that match of vibration is always being served in some way through your creative energies. So if there are a group of beings that are still existing in the third dimension, and those beings are at a lower resonant speed of energy, and you are all interconnected as one, you can see the potential here for many of these types of experiences to be created. And we know that you may ask, well, how is it that I can change this? Because if I am a part of it, how is that coming through me? How am I responsible in some way for these events? This is where many of the changes are beginning to take place, because your singular experience has truly been the guidepost or the path through and by which you intersect with all others. So if you were having a lower vibrational experience in your reality, and let's make that a war in itself. Let's say that is a war with a family member. And in that war with a family member, you had an experience that caused you to vibrate in a lower consciousness. Perhaps that was anger, perhaps that was fear. Perhaps in some way you felt defeat or frustration. In that moment, your creative energy fueled what is known as this very center core space where all timelines intersect. And a manifestation of collective nature took place. So imagine all of the humans in this moment on the earth who might be having a similar war in their singular experience, and how that singular war becomes a vibrational match to a historic war that you are now replaying. And this is what we come to tell you today, that you have been replaying history here. You have been in a cycle or a loop through which history has been recreated over and over. And you are bringing the imprint, the creative energy, the color to that historic event. In other words, you are changing it. You are changing it to something that now relates to your own structure. But now let's go back to this, what we call dividing consciousness, the third and the fifth dimension, and this new collective grid that has opened the space. Where there have been varying levels of consciousness and speed of vibration within human beings, there is now going to be a leveling off of speed of vibration. In other words, there will be less of a difference of consciousness between individuals and more of a collective form of difference of vibration. Those that are more of a lower consciousness will be vibrating the same, at the same speed of resonance in a different dimension. Those that are of a higher speed of vibration will also be resonating the same. This is different from your DNA. We want to explain how that is different, because many of you may think, well, I know that I have a higher dimensional DNA than the fifth dimension, and I know I have access beyond that dimensional portal of the fifth. And we would say yes, because many of you have illuminated strands of DNA beyond the fifth dimension, and you are able to use that to intercommunicate and tap into information from higher dimensional beings and beyond. But this vibration we speak of is related to earth, and it is related to the heart, and it is related to your structure. So as you move into this new timeline, what is beginning to happen here is that those people that have raised their consciousness, those people that are intentional in accepting this new fifth dimension, are having more of an impact on the collective space, that center space we speak of, where all points intersect. Because this history that's coming through you now is able to be healed in a more expansive way. this history that you have perceived as very personal and something that you have created that perhaps you deserved or did something wrong to have to experience or suffer through, now becomes lifted away. And the reason for this is that this collective grid is allowing new and higher dimensional beings of light to enter the Earth aura. They are assisting you in multiple ways. They're able to raise the vibration here in a way that is connective of this new fifth dimension. Think of it this way. You have many higher dimensional beings that are already existing in your aura. You have now shifted your structure in a way that you become omnipresent with those beings and their vibration. They are raising you to a new potential purely by their existence here. They're allowing you to operate differently. In addition, you have been able to reorganize your structure and anchor in the crystalline being that we call the higher self or the oversoul. That oversoul having a collective connection and your higher self having the singular connection. This becomes very important in how you're going to shift and raise the potential here of healing. So in this new collective fifth dimensional space, we would choose the word encapsulation. What you are beginning to do is encapsulate yourself in a new auric field. And that encapsulation is directly related to this new sonic resonance and vibration offered through the grid lines of Mother Earth as magnetic and bringing in higher dimensional beings to be a part of that new collective consciousness. So many people speak of disclosure on your planet, and we come to give you a message about disclosure as well. Disclosure isn't just about information. It isn't just about exposure of these beings and how they are interacting. It really goes beyond the truth of the existence of these beings to them becoming one with you, to you accepting that you are one with them, you owning your multidimensionality and raising your vibration to match what is available now here with the support of these beings. So we allude to karma. And what is the meaning of this karmic release? It is a shift of universal law, whereby karma does not have to operate any longer at the singular soul level. You have a free will choice to accept your experience as karmic in this way. But when you begin to understand your intricate connection to the earth consciousness and what you see in your collective reality, you can begin to understand how karma now is coming through the collective in a way that you can support healing. And it is by healing all of your wounds. This is what you have been working on in much of the last 2-year transition here on this planet. The reorganization of your structure comes to support this. It helps you to vision and see with new eyes what is really taking place within your singular world and how it is not at all a part of something you've done wrong, something that you've deserved here. It has much more to do with your disillusion of your interconnection and of how you chose to incarnate here as singular beings with free will to operate within this collective space. So we wish to conclude by saying that in this timeline splitting, where we're seeing this leveling off taking place within the third and the fifth dimension, these people that are anchored in the third, their vibration has raised as well. Their structures have changed as well. They're making a free will choice to hold on to their material existence, to their density. And density is much different than karma. The density is the material that is created by you. It is earthbound. Karma is multidimensional. It is cosmic. It's history. When that density is no longer existent in your structure, your vision is no longer clouded. And the karmic experience becomes very clear. And it becomes very relatable to what has happened here on your planet. The way you have been taught. The way you have identified with the self. the way that you were taken away from your truth, the way that you were told you were less than. That is why in this moment, in this very moment of time, the most important thing that you can do to support this transition on the earth is look inward, using the higher self as the visionary to begin to understand how to drop the density around these, what we would call historic multidimensional events, which seem to you quite personal and quite important in your singular reality, and raise them to a new dimension. And in that new dimension, all healing exists. In that new dimension, all potential exists. And in that new dimension, peace exists. And we are very pleased to answer questions.
Can you speak to us about our politics?
We are pleased, and I bring the Pleiadian Collective in to speak about this. We are the ninth dimensional Pleiadian Collective. And when we look at the form of politics that you have adopted here on this planet, we want to first say that, of course, everything is energetic. So when there is a manifestation of a process in which you have put together a list or a criteria of rules that must be followed, that criteria, that list, and what results from that criteria in that list is created through your energy. So when you think of politics and you think of your political race, let us say, for example, and you use the message that was brought in today by the council, you can begin to see the relationship of what is happening here to your singular energy. Sovereignty is a big part of the illusion that is your political system. You were born here as free and sovereign beings. But what has happened over time and through many dimensional wars and cataclysmic events here is that there is a lower dimensional consciousness within the earth that is creating through you. And that lower dimensional consciousness is taking your awareness away from your sovereignty and placing it outside of the self. And you can see the mirrors to this in the way that you operate in many aspects of your reality. You rely on truth outside of the self. Everything about your physical being is controlled by something outside of you, is it not? It goes beyond the politics in your world. It goes directly into the fabric of your society. But when we look at the way the political race has evolved here, what we can say is that it can show you the tool of manifestation and the power of the way your consciousness interacts with that manifestation. Many wish to take sides, and they wish to become intricately involved in this energy. And we would call politics a consciousness. And you have many forms of consciousness on your planet. Disease is consciousness. Your government is a consciousness. All of these things carry information and they carry weight, but you make them so. So if you are one that is very involved in this political race and you are choosing a side, and through that choosing of your free will of this side, you are spreading information within the collective about your choosing and whether that choosing is right or wrong, you are creating this political race even bigger. Because the choosing of a right and wrong is equal to the manifestation of a choosing of right and wrong. And who is to really say who is right and who is wrong? And we love this topic because it is very near and dear to our heart. We love to speak of neutrality. Many of you believe there is a right and a wrong. Even in your choices each day, there is a right and a wrong. And yes, we know there are things on your planet that happen that are not in the highest good of the human consciousness. But in the right and wrong, there is a judgment. And in that judgment, there is an imprint. And that imprint is something energetically that affects your structure. So if you are right in your political decision, and someone tells you that that rightness is wrong, what is happening in that moment? You are taken outside of yourself in order to fulfill a judgment and come to peace with that judgment in some way that is lower vibrational. There is nothing about the political race that is in any way related to the healing of your planet. You can make it so. And the way that your government operates is something that we see transitioning through your consciousness. But all of you must begin to understand that your vibrational currency becomes the way you interact with that consciousness. So the more that you are in a lower vibrational state of judgment, and the more that you place that energetic currency of judgment into that consciousness, the more that it grows. And that cannot serve the human collective in any way if it is not a neutrality. So what we see taking place here, of course, over the course of many years, is a reorganization of your political structure, really having its basis in the fifth dimension. Because those that are beginning to operate in that structure and bringing in the higher dimensional beings are beginning to own their sovereignty. And in that ownership of sovereignty, it is not something that you must fight for in the streets. It's something you must embody. And in the embodiment of that sovereignty and the choosing of your free will to embody that sovereignty, you must make a shift or a change in that consciousness. Not by interacting with it, but by creating something new. And this is how all patterns change. There are patterns within the physical body. There are patterns within your society. In order to change those patterns, new ones must form. So when you accept your sovereignty and you live in your sovereignty, you are expressing a vibration to the collective that is being answered and heard. So the more that operate in that sovereignty, the bigger that vibration becomes, and the more it becomes matched, and the more material creates around it, to the point where there is a different form of politics or a different form of government that operates here, that is more aligned with your truth. And that is what we see happening. We can give a timeline for this because we do believe that the next 5 years on your planet will be very pivotal, especially regarding your government and politics here. There will be many shifts and changes relationable to collective forms of government. And many of these have already been established and created here on your planet. These collective forms of government work in unison for the highest good of the body of energy. And these are what we see being expanded as you go forward.
What can the guides tell us about what's happening in Korea and the nuclear tests they're doing? Why are they allowing this to happen, and can they get involved?
The Pleiadian Collective comes in to also answer this question. What we wish to say about this is we want to go back to the original message about history. Because when you consider that you are replaying history here, and you look at the radioactive forms of material that are being used and created in a situation very similar to the consciousness of your politics. In other words, it is outside of you and taking you into a situation of fear or lower vibration. You must consider that that is a timeline that was in some way matched. And that timeline is multidimensional. So we are here to say that there have been many similar types of materials that have been used here on your planet in other forms. Your planet has been cleared of consciousness by these materials, and there were dimensional wars that took place that were not of the highest intent of the beings that were here. So why is this coming up again? Why is it resurfacing here on the planet? Well, it is because you are coming into a time where it must. The human consciousness as an earth being is purging its karma. Imagine now the beginning message that was brought in about your relationship to Mother Gaia and how your structure is vibrating exactly the same as hers. But now this law of karma is operating within her, releasing these wounds, these experiences for the collective to heal. Many wish to understand why is it that these beings that are present here are not changing this or eliminating it in some way. And we want to clarify our role in your consciousness because we take it very importantly. as members of the council that we are, and interacting with the council, we know of how the universe must operate. And there have been laws that have been put into place because there are dimensional forms of reality that have experienced similar timelines here. When you were created in human form, you chose through your intention to have free will and to be creators. And these higher vibrational beings of light that are present here on the planet to assist would never interrupt or take away that free will and creative ability. Could we come in and wipe clean the planet of all lower vibration in all history? We would say we could. But in that moment, there would be an effect, you see, because all energy in some form comes back to neutrality. So if there is a war that is being created, or a material that is being created that is not to your liking, is it equal to something else that is being created that is to your liking? You may think, well, no, because this is good and this is bad. Well, that is judgment. All energy is neutral. All energy is expansive. All energy comes to the same place. So if beings come in and reorganize this structure that you have created here, it does not just have an effect on the negative things that you see on your planet. It also has an effect on some of the beautiful aspects of your planet that you are beginning to create and see evolve here. So where we support is very reminiscent of what the council brought in earlier. Our presence here is illuminating your consciousness and raising your vibration. And as such, that becomes our support because the density that you've existed in can no longer create these types of experiences or match them. Your potential to heal these experiences becomes greater with the presence of these beings. The reason for that is you vibrate higher. And as your higher self comes online and the oversoul begins to operate as a one, encapsulated together, the creation here becomes different. New timelines become matched. Those of rebirth, those of technology, those of higher light. This is where we come into support. But we also want to allude to the previous question about consciousness in your politics. Because this is consciousness, my friends. So you must be very careful about how and where you place your energy within that consciousness. Because we know that many of you are well-intentioned in how you wish to interact and try to resolve that consciousness. But in essence, the more that you create from within, the counterpart of that, what you call bad, which is good in the world, this is where you heal what is happening there. Your singular experience has always been the conduit for the collective healing and for what is shown in the collective energies and how you intersect with those. So your singular experience becomes the focal point for how you heal. And we are in much support of your singular experience as collective conduits. And we come to support that from all angles, not only healing, not only higher vibrational energies and the one connection that we're serving through this physical being that you operate as and within, but beyond that, the clearing and the lifting of karma from your singular experience to begin to see clearly into your own creative source, which is the operating source by which all things are served.
Is there any significance to children being born with a huge head, especially on the occipital side?
Well, there are many, this is the Arcturians. We are pleased to come into this transmission. The Arcturians, who are seventh dimensional, are pleased to answer this question. So we see as physical beings that there are many different forms of manifestation of your being. And of course, there are many different reasons for these manifestations. When you speak about the head as you are bringing it into this conversation, what we would say is the head is equal to all other parts of the body in that it is created by you in each moment. And at the cellular level, you are one with all things, and all things start within your being. But when there is a manifestation of something that is outside of what you have called your norm, because you have decided that there is a physical norm on this planet, there is obviously an imbalance or a disharmony or information that needs to be served. So the children we can categorize into several different forms of consciousness. We know that there are children coming onto the planet in this time that are holding a higher consciousness than many of the humans that they are born to. And because of this, there is a lag time between their speed of vibration and how their body is manifesting into material. And that lag time is the vibration you are creating here, the speed that you are creating through the material that you operate within. That material becomes the foods on your planet. That material becomes many of the chemicals that you have chosen to operate within. The way that your Mother Earth Gaia planet has been tainted within her own aura becomes that material. So many children who are especially vulnerable to physical manifestations of this kind are actually in a time loop where they are creating material form through a density that is difficult for them to interpret. And this happens to many human beings within their structure. There is a disease that you manifest. The reason for that disease is that there is information that has assembled or a consciousness that has formed at the cellular level that is different than your operating speed. So what we would say in general about this question is that it is very important in this time to pay close attention to what you are creating in the earth consciousness, especially related to dense material with the physical body. The physical body becoming a focal point of your transition over the course of the next 1.5 to 2 years. The reason for this is that the sensitivities here are beginning to increase. Those sensitivities in those children that come onto the planet with higher vibrations, as well as your sensitivities. You've operated in the 5 senses, and that is changing dramatically in this very moment. The reason for this is this omnipresence that is now embodied here in this higher dimensional speed. Where you start and begin as physical material has now opened itself to multidimensional energies. That means you are tapping into new information because you're vibrating at the speed of that information. And how you choose to interact with that is going to become very pivotal. And many of the people that are in the 3rd dimensional consciousness will have a more difficult time adjusting to that resonance or speed because they are still holding on to material reality. The more that you operate in the non-physical and understand that everything in the material physical world has an effect on that non-physical energy, is when you will see the human body better adjusted and better in harmony to the energies here. Further, we want to say that the children are a very important part of the transition that you are walking on this planet. They are coming in not only with a higher consciousness, but with a plan. And that plan is to rebirth your planet in ways that you could not imagine. The technologies that they bring in that are non-physical are beyond your capabilities. So it is extremely important that the road is laid, the groundwork is laid for them to appear and ground here in ways that are not disharmonious to their structure. Many of you are anchored as healers in this time to support this very truth, to support this very mission. And it starts with other human adults. Many of you who are healing human adults, these adults become the way showers for these children to enter the planet.
How do we learn to meditate or know if we're doing it right? I can't figure out how to meditate deeply.
Jeremiah steps in, and I'm very pleased to bring him into this conversation. What we wish to say about meditation is that it takes many forms, and all of you have unique structures. Those structures vibrate differently and are attuned differently to your reality based on your DNA. So it becomes very important to tune into the uniqueness of you in order to choose a meditation practice that is best serving for your experience. When the DNA becomes readable by the human consciousness, there will be new forms of meditation that will emerge here on your planetary base. But in the meantime, what we ask you to do is pay extremely close attention to not only your extrasensory tools, because they will give you a clue or a cue as to how you vibrate into meditation, but also communication with the body, which is becoming quite heightened as you move into this new phase. You see, your physical body is not necessarily made up of dense karmic material and information. It goes beyond that. It really is a beautiful, intricate, crystalline structure that you are now able to communicate with. So we offer some advice to all of you in this moment, that you begin to communicate with the physical body in ways that it tells you the best ways to connect. And some of you may ask, well, I don't hear information from the physical body, so how am I to get this message? You are to watch very carefully, feel very carefully, begin to listen and observe very carefully to the things that bring you to peace. Because in any meditation, neutrality or source is the object or the goal, which is equal to peace. Many of you know what peace is. Peace can be a moment where the song of the birds brings you to yourself. Peace can be a moment when nature is holding your attention in such a way that the beautiful colors are illuminating your space and taking you away from the mind. The breath. The breath is a very important tool that creates the space between who you are in this reality and the truth of your being, which is the interconnection with all. Meditation does not have to be a practice that is prescribed. It can be a practice that is created. And the more that you begin to use and accept those tools that you have within as unique to you, the more you will begin to find that practice. And we know that, yes, there are many ancient tools and practices that are very conducive to meditation, and that you can research those and use those tools as well. But finding the one that most resonates with you becomes the journey through and by which your vibration will shift and change. Tones and sounds are a very important part of your transition in this moment because the resonance of Mother Gaia is shifting and changing. And we have recommended during this transition that many of you look to vibration of sound as a very intricate tool to help balance the body for meditation, for connection to source, and for balance and pure health. When you look to the vibration of sound, look to natural tones, earth frequencies. Those are best served by the human consciousness in this very moment. But we would also say that many of you are searching for guides, and that you all have them in abundance, and that those guides are here to serve you. So placing your intention with those guides to show you the way to the best form of meditation becomes a very easy way to find it within your physical reality. And the more that you trust in this connection, in this communication, and be open to what is presented, the more it will unfold for you.
Is there a way I can know my level of vibration?
Measurement of vibration, and this is Jeremiah continuing. Measurement of vibration is something on your planet that has been discussed and has been researched and looked at as an important tool. When we talk about vibration, what we ask for you to know is that in any moment, your vibration is constantly changing. With every thought, with every emotion, you are a fluctuating energetic being. And we know that this might sound frustrating to you because you wish to maintain your vibration at a steady pace. You as a physical being have used a couple of different important tools or centers to create your vibration. The mind connected to the emotional body. As you have had thoughts, those thoughts have affected your emotions or caused your emotions, and your emotions have become the key frequency in your primary vibration. So think of all the emotions you feel throughout the day and how different you might be vibrating at the level of speeds throughout your daily activity. What happens, though, throughout this daily activity is all of those moments of vibration culminate in one steady resonance. And that resonance doesn't need to be measured. We know that the earth frequencies or the earth vibrational tones can be measured. And the reason for that is they are the tool for your vibration to connect multidimensionally. But when you have a range of emotions throughout the day, what is happening is you are falling somewhere on that range based on the vibrations you've experienced, and they are holding within you a signal. And that signal is calling to the universe as a magnet to attract the timelines from the infinite potentials within your field that you wish to choose from. So let's give you an example, because many of you may feel frightened by this information, because you may say, well, I'm at work all day. And when I am at work all day, it is difficult. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm dealing with people who are not kind to me. My vibration, my emotions are very low. And we would say, yes, we recognize that. But then I get home. And at the end of that day, I delight in a beautiful 15-minute meditation. And I cook a beautiful dinner for my family. And we sit together and we share and we interact. What we want you to realize is that 15-minute meditation, that beautiful dinner that you cooked, that took your emotional body in a higher vibration, far outweighs that entire 8-hour day that you spent at work vibrating in a lower dimension. Why is that? Because the higher vibrational speeds have a more potent magnetized frequency to attract. So it doesn't take much, and this is why we always say, putting a little bit of energetic currency each day into something that you enjoy, something that excites you, something that calls to your soul, will make a very large impact in your life. And this is where the tides begin to turn. Because you can go to that 8-hour job, and you can hold that vibration, that emotional vibration, but you can come home. And you can place energetic currency at the soul level. That fire within the soul, that purpose, that excitement feeds your vibration in such a way that it will override and raise all of that lower dense material that you created through your vibration at work. So each day, if you're paying close attention to bringing something into your life that holds you in a state of higher vibration, it is going to shift you. And what you will find is perhaps that 8-hour job that you are going to, that you are vibrating an emotion and a speed that is lower, is no longer necessary, or is falling away, or is shifting and changing, or is attracting new people, new places, new things, new opportunities. And this is how vibration works. So in any moment, what can we measure? We can measure what you are matching in your frequency to potential manifestation of timelines. This is where many are able to look into the future and predict what might happen next. They are looking into the potential timelines that are available and matching them to the frequency of the vibration of that being. in that particular moment, in that particular day. But you have free will. So a karmic experience can take place. You can have a triggering of a code that releases a karmic vibration, and you can create that karmic vibration however you so choose. And you can vibrate in a lower speed that takes you away from those potentials that perhaps were more pleasing to you. But that's okay. Because in any moment, you get to shift and change that through your free will as well. And it doesn't take much to get you back on track. It only takes a few moments each day to reconnect to your truth.
Does one vibrate at a lower frequency if one eats meat? And does eating animals cause wars?
The Pleiadians come in to answer this question. So what we wish to say is there were many forms of collective consciousness on your planet that chose to eat meat as a part of their experience here. And we relate to some of the native tribes, for example. And there is a very big difference between how your human consciousness chooses to consume animals in this moment, in this timeline that you are experiencing, as opposed to the way some of the native forms of collective consciousness chose to consume animals. Because it was a very sacred practice. Energetically, it was aligned with healing. It was aligned with honoring that animal, honoring the being that was that animal, honoring the interconnection of nature. It had meaning. It had symbology. It had purpose. It was intentional. You see, intention is everything. So when you look at the consumption of meat on your planet today, we ask you, what is the intention behind that consumption of meat? And how are you operating in a consciousness around that consumption? You see, it is taken outside of its original intent. So we know, as a part of your Earth experience, that the consumption of meat is holding your collective in a state in which it's creating more lower vibration. And this comes in many forms, because the intention around the interaction with these animals is not in the highest good. And that intention becomes a part of you, because you are one with everything. Everything that is made of Earth and everything that is made of you becomes one. And those tribes that consumed animal products knew that they would become one with those animals. They were revered for their knowledge. They were revered for their earthly connection. They were revered for the information that they brought to the physical being and the oneness of the tribe. What we see happening here on your planet structurally is several different things. You're vibrating higher. Your speed, as we mentioned earlier, is vibrating in a way that it has never vibrated before. Because of this, the density that you consume in the form of energy, which is information, must change. You're interpreting information differently. That is why we see many human beings in this time stepping outside of that collective form of consciousness, which is the consumption of meat. Because the information that they are consuming is not in alignment with their intention. And that information is very well interpreted by the body. In many, it becomes an emotional response. And in that experience, there is history that is also being replayed. See, this consciousness that has been created around the way that meat on your planet or animal products are processed and used. It is another part of your karmic historic experience here to clear. But as the physical body begins to operate differently, we see that it is going to gravitate more towards natural forms of Earth. It has to, because it is only going to match information that is the same. And in the honoring of the animal, we'll go back to the native tribes, the honoring of the animal, this sacred practice of bringing the animal into the being. That is something that was purposeful in that time. There was a density that was experienced in that time that required that type of information. There's a purpose for everything. But that purpose is now gone because you now vibrate different. You're becoming more crystalline. And as a crystalline being, you are matching higher vibrational earth energies. And those earth energies are found mostly within earth frequency plants, as well as higher vibrational water. And we want to speak about water for a moment because we believe this is an important part of this conversation. Your crystalline energy as a base starts in water. You are made up of that crystalline energy. And that crystalline energy is also a part of your earth. The water on your planet is equal to the water within your body. The bodies of water on Mother Earth are your body of water. So the more that you honor the water within, whether that be with the information that it has to present to you or you to it, you become more equal to the healing that will take place in those bodies of water. So we highly recommend a couple of different things. That you are working with highly charged crystalline water, structured water, pure water that is entering your body. Because it has a direct effect on how you communicate, not only with your physical being, but the entire collective consciousness.
Can you speak about a practical methodology or a thought process to achieve self-healing?
Well, there are many, and this is the Pleiadian Collective coming in. Self-healing is a transition that you are walking right now in this very moment. You have always had the potential here to be self-healers because you see anything that arises in the physical body is created by you in every moment. What many of you do not realize is that upon awakening each day, your body is created anew. Each cell, each proton, each neutron, each vein, all of the structure and material that makes up the intricate source of you is a part of your creation. But what's happened is you have lost that creator energy because it's been placed outside of you in a way that you've not embodied your truth. So the path to self-healing is not a one-step process. We see it evolving over the course of the next 3 years. Self-healing, the first step, involves the interconnection of your being to the one, embodying source and honoring the creator that you are. Communication is extremely important in this time with the body. It always has been. You haven't recognized how you've been communicating with what you are creating. So begin at that point. The more that you communicate with the body, whether it be asking and listening, or whether it be telling, becomes very pivotal in how you rearrange structure and how you rearrange material. You are powerful creators here. So if there is a physical issue that you are having in the body, dialoguing with it from the aspect of the higher dimension becomes an important tool or process. In other words, when you have this problem, you create it bigger the more that you accept it, the more that you interact with it, very similarly to the previous questions we've answered about politics, war. Many of you who have manifested disease here have become one with the consciousness of that disease. You've accepted it as your identity. You relate to it. You create it bigger by honoring it. Within that disease, there are cells, and those cells are here to function for and through you. The sacred geometric patterns of those cells come into harmony when you choose to infuse them with love. And we ask you, how many of you who are connecting to this message in this very moment are honoring and loving of your physical bodies? Not just from a communication standpoint, but from how you interact with your physical bodies and your earth experience. So if you have manifested something such as disease, you are right now in a space in your transition by and through which your physical experience becomes the conduit for that healing in relationship to how you interact at the cellular level. Communicating with that body, asking it, telling it, loving it, appreciating it in all forms. Whether that be the foods that you take in, the waters that you choose to drink, the way you choose to move the physical body, and the way you choose to allow it to interact with energy. But beyond that, what you tell it, what you believe it to be. Because what you believe it to be is of the highest importance in this moment. This is the understanding that you are coming into as self-healers. That your intentions here, your beliefs here are very powerful. You have formed identities around those, and those identities have been illness in many respects. Much beyond that, these phases that we speak of have important transitions connected to the earth consciousness. We see the technology being a very important part of this transition, the technology being your internal technology, and that is beginning to come online in this very moment. The interdimensional traveling that you are beginning to do and the way that you are going to communicate with other higher dimensional beings is a very important part of this healing. The same way that these beings come in to support things that are happening on your planet with their consciousness is the same way they come in to support your physical body. Your singular experience can be one with these beings, and they can help you in ways that you have not understood previously. And many of you who have been channels for healing through your physical body will begin to work differently with your vessel. These channeled energies are going to be offered differently. They're going to be light-coded. They're going to be activating forms of consciousness. They're going to be reorganizing structural patterns and sacred geometric harmony. But you can begin this process on your own. In the same way that meditation was presented to you as a very unique opportunity, something that you discover, you can offer the journey to self-healing as a very similar type of experience, one that you accept and create in ways that you choose, practices that you create through your experience with your physical body. But we would say, in conclusion, the most important frequency to embody is love. Self-love and love for the physical body. Because that sets the energy as a platform for all healing to begin. And the beginning of that healing is a transcendence into a new dimension. No disease, no physical disharmony can exist in the same dimension in which it was created. So raising your dimension is another aspect that we bring in as something that we advise. And again, we say that is through your non-physical and physical experience, through meditation and everything that you choose to interact with, to grow your consciousness, to grow your aura, to bring that physical body into a state of harmony.
The ancients, please. What are the extra-dimensional pillars of light, for example, the 14 pillars of light, and how are they assisting us, and how does one work with them?
The 14 pillars of light, as we interpret them, are ancient forms of light-coded energy that come in different states of reality. There are portals within your earth, and those portals are timed to various alignments. And these alignments that we speak of are directly related to the earth record. These pillars of light are informational, and they connect with various forms of consciousness. Each form of consciousness has a very specific DNA connection, as well as a connection to activation portals within the structure. Working with them becomes both a unique as well as a collective form of experience. These pillars of light that you speak of, many have anchored here to work with as healers. In other words, they are bringing in these DNA strands and dimensions that are anchored in these portals to channel these energies through them to assist others in not only raising their dimension, but also accessing higher dimensional information that is available to them in this very moment. But when we look deeply at what these pillars are, there are records in these pillars, and each record is related to a phase of ascension. So many of you relate to the 12th dimension, and we know that there is a 13th dimension that is also opening up within the earth energies. The 14th dimension is an intentional area through and by which many are also beginning to realize is a possibility here for many of the collectives that are anchored in these pillars. These pillars are not only formed through dimensional consciousness, but they are also enabled through the intention of the human consciousness that connects with them. So to make this quite simple, there are beings on the planet that hold codes within them that are illuminated at various times, and those codes connect to the pillars. And those pillars bring records of information in to help the earth consciousness in an evolutionary period of time. Working with these is not something that can be initiated through your free will. There is a part of your record that must be unlocked and opened by a very specific healer that is working with the pillar of light to open you to this information. And not all were meant to work with the 14 pillars, especially in this time. That means interdimensional information coming together as one. It is a very powerful tool. But when we say that these healers are present, we wish to say that they hold very specific DNA and that they come to directly relate to this information in a way that they are grounding it in an integrated fashion. In other words, the information is so great and so dense and so thick that it would be difficult for all of it to come in at once. So there are many that have grounded here as conduits to slowly bring these 4 pillars into the earth consciousness and enable human beings to connect with them.
The Arcturians, please.
Yes, we are pleased to connect as 7th dimensional beings.
Can you tell us how to remember how to read light language?
Light language is a form of crystalline energy. And as light language is spoken, what is happening is it is a dense amount of information that comes through in what some might interpret as a time warp or a wormhole, we can call it. In other words, a portal is opened up through and by which a higher dimensional form of information is brought in a very short and fragmented time period. There are not many human beings on the planet at this time who are meant to work with light language. In other words, light language is a form of communication that is healing on the planet, and there are some that have anchored here to work in the form of light language. But if some were intentional in working with it, they might not be able to bring it in unless it was a very specific DNA match to what they have come to imprint here on the earth. The reason for this is it does require a form of travel, a form of interdimensional travel, and a form of access within earth portals that is quite different than what the human structure offers in its base form. Light language in itself offers an immediate form of healing. It can interrupt the structure and the communication of the structure in a singular moment and expand the DNA with large amounts of information in a very short period of time. And that light language comes in crystalline energy, and that crystalline energy is absorbed through the consciousness very quickly. So it can raise the consciousness of human beings, opening them to healing and new forms of dimensional reality, also in a very expedited fashion.
Can you speak about the Earth grid that was opened and activated during the full moon?
Yes, the council comes in to speak about this Earth grid. And what we would say is the Earth grid has been activated 7 weeks ago. This activation was anticipated for a very long period of time. It was in your record, and it began its activation in a form of energy and crystalline source, meaning that your earth consciousness had a part in the timing of this activation. This earth grid that we speak of is a higher vibrational energy that is connecting the earth consciousness as a one. It is encapsulating the earth consciousness in a new vibration, offering the frequency to achieve healing in very expedited fashion. When we talk about karma and the law of karma, it is directly related to this grid, because as the earth consciousness has been focused in a very singular state and in a fragmented form of healing, it begins to operate differently within the human consciousness, offering a very easy form of collective manifestation of karma. And many may say that this sounds difficult and not as something that we want to experience here. But what we would say is it has always been in your record to heal the collective in this way. And this grid, in addition to its karmic release, is offering to you a new form of magnetics. It connects with the earth grids, and the earth grids are accommodating the space of this grid and the requirements of its crystalline energy. In other words, the magnetics here are beginning to shift and change. And the way that you are magnetically charged is also beginning to shift and change in relation to that. You have grids within you that connect to the earth grid lines, and those earth grid lines are also connected intricately to the web of consciousness we call the universe. And in those connections, this new grid is allowing many beings of higher vibration to come in and support your energy, offering you a new opportunity to raise your dimension and hold that dimension much easier than what you were able to do previously. What we anticipate with this new grid activation is that many will be able to operate and hold this new dimension not only for themselves, but for the benefit of the collective consciousness, offering many forms of operational changes, not only within the structure, but within your society. So when you speak of societal changes taking place, such as the restructuring of your corporations, your banks, your governments, the way that you interact with dimensional consciousness, this grid had to be installed in order for those structures to reorganize, because you were operating with them so singularly that it was very difficult for you to have an impact. But the reason that these corporations, these banks, these political structures, even your learning institutions will begin to restructure is because you are right along with them. And this grid allows that restructuring to take place.
Mother Mary, please. I once asked Divine Mother Mary, if the devil really existed, fully expecting her to say no. She said indeed, but I ran out of time and wasn't able to ask further questions like, in what form does the devil exist in this reality? Or as a fallen angel, especially if a place called heaven doesn't really exist as a physical place, same for hell. Or are we just talking about an energy like a reptilian energy, or is there an actual devil, Satan, Lucifer, etc. entity in this physical reality?
What we speak of when we speak of heaven and hell and the devil and angels is equal to you. In other words, your experience, your earthly experience, is the conduit for all things. And the teachings that are brought forward of these experiences have deep meaning to your own experience. You see the messages here today that have been brought forward through many beings of support and love have been directly related to how your singular experience must always be related to the collective. So when you speak of heaven, you have the opportunity in this moment to experience that heaven. Then you speak of transition and how they reintegrate with the one, and they are forever changed by that reintegration, knowing no fear and knowing no boundary. That is possible right here in this moment. When you speak of hell and you speak of suffering, you speak of an area of consciousness through which you must suffer for something that you've done here on this planet. You are already doing that in each moment. How many of you are choosing that suffering through guilt or shame, blaming yourself for something that perhaps you did or didn't do? That is a hell in itself, is it not? And it takes you away from the opportunity of experiencing that heaven on earth. So what we would say is that all beings make up the devil. All beings make up the highest angelic form, because you are one with all of that. It is within you. That heaven and hell experience is something that came to teach you how to use your free will here, to live in a way that brought you peace and harmony, love and truth. It is not to say that when you transition, there isn't a reorganization and there isn't an experience to be had. Because what we see as far as the integration of information is that there is a space where you come into all-knowing and all-being. And in that space of all-knowing and all-being, there is an understanding that in the choices that you made, you may wish to evolve your soul further. And many choose to experience that timeline again here on the earth consciousness, because they know that that heaven on earth is now possible. And when they come back as an incarnate soul with that intention to reorganize that timeline, they also have free will. And of course they forget, and there's a deep reason for that. Because you couldn't come here and remember all of it. In this density that you've chosen, in this field of potential, you only can operate in a certain amount of information. But the teachings about heaven and hell in themselves offer you the remembrance of that space. How is it that you observed your hell? How is it that you observed your heaven? How is it that you chose to come back in a timeline of history to choose the heaven over the hell? There are many guides in support of your incarnate journey in this very moment that are here to remind you of this truth. And when you vibrate in a space where you choose the devil, through your vibration, that devil exists. When you choose that higher vibrational angelic form, that angel exists. All existence is created by you. You can interact with these guides, with these beings, and receive information not because you must or you should, because it is by your choosing that you enable it. So we would say in conclusion that all beings here are one with that energy in any moment. It is a part of you on this earthly plane. And it is within your right, within your birthright, that you came to experience that heaven on earth. And it is by your choosing and by your creation that you so do.
Would you conclude this session, please?
Yes. What we wish to offer all beings today is in support and love and an offering of truth, because in this moment, truth is a part of your journey that is an integrative space through and by which this heaven on earth exists. There has been much speaking today, much shared today about your journey on this planet and where you stand as incarnate souls, accessing that truth and that purpose, and how the universe comes to support what you have chosen. Your truth is the vibration of all of that. and it is accessible by you. You know it. And through your free will, you choose to live it. And that becomes the heaven on earth that exists for all of you. And we say many blessings and go in peace.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Awaken Empower TV with our on-site 2-hour event with Micheila Sheldan. Join me next week as we speak with another incredible individual who's standing on the leading edge and changing the world.